Hello, everyone, and welcome to Increasing Access Beyond the Campus to Maximise Student Success, Reducing Education Deserts, Building Partnerships, and Developing Careers. This is a Times Higher Education webinar in partnership with Noodle. My name is Alistair Lawrence. I'm the Head of Branded Content at THE, and I'll be chairing today's discussion. I'm joined by a panel of experts today, and among them are Kathy Wasilewski, who is Vice President for University Engagement and Field Placement at Noodle. So, Kathy, I believe you have a short presentation prepared. I'll hand over to you.
Great. Thanks, Alistair. Hello, everyone. We are so excited to be here and engaging in this conversation. I want to do a quick intro to Noodle and our panelist here. Again, my name is Kathy Wasilewski, VP of University Engagement and Field Placement, and I've been working in the higher education space for about 15 years, mostly working with universities to build placement programs, which allows students to complete their clinical experience in their communities. So I've been working with programs in nursing, social work, education, physician's assistant, physical therapy, pharmacy, and pharmacy. Noodle as a company, we provide strategy and services and technology to our university partners, and our vision is to empower universities to transform the world. And we have done that by working besides our university partners to launch and operate graduate online programs with a variety of services, such as marketing enrollment, student support, placement, technology, and learning. And today, we're really excited to have the conversation with our partners, Lori Kokenauer at University of Pittsburgh and Stavara Haley-Clark at the Virginia Commonwealth University in the area specific of placement and student support, and how we work together to address education deserts and support and increase accessibility for students. Together, we have built student orientations, provide student successes, coaches to support students through graduation, and secure sites across the country for clinical placement experiences. So Stavara and Lori will share more information about their specific universities and accomplishments when they intro themselves. But before we do that, I'm going to let Julie, my colleague, introduce herself.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. My name is Julie Leventhal, and I use she, her, they pronouns. I have spent well over a decade in education technology, and I specifically focus on work that will improve access to resources that have the power to change lives. That's my inner social work speaking. At Noodle, I have the distinct honor of leading our student support and engagement efforts, which directly support students, as well as program leadership, with the goal of ensuring high quality experience for the students, the admin, and for everyone involved. We have an incredible group of academic professionals who work day in and day out to ensure that our students and our university partners have that support they need to achieve their vision. And that means online and beyond. We meet our students and our colleagues where they are, and we do our best to provide that well-connected, world-class experience. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing a wonderful colleague from the University of Pittsburgh. So Lori Kokenauer, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today. I'm Lori Kokenauer. I am the Executive Director of the Office of Online Learning in the School of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences at Pitt. We have been partners with Noodle since 2019 and have very successfully launched several programs with Noodle. The programs that I want to discuss today in particular are the Physician Assistant Studies program and the Doctorate in Physical Therapy program. Those are programs that have clinical placement associated with them. The strategies that we've used with those programs also are used for the health informatics program and the clinical doctorate in occupational therapy. We have had a wonderful experience with Noodle in preparing our sites for students who are not in Pittsburgh. Our school offers graduate professional programs online, and it is part of the strategic plan of SHRS to grow the footprint of Pitt and increase the diversity of our student body and reach students who would be unable to get the education that they want and need to stay in their communities. We are very focused on that mission. We also have an understanding that our school is full of caring professions. We are caring professionals, and we are creating, hopefully, caring professionals that will work with in some healthcare deserts as well as education deserts. We've intentionally included underrepresented populations in our marketing and outreach efforts, and also tapped into alumni and preceptors to support our online students' success in their degree programs. And we feel like we've been very successful. Our online programs are much more diverse than our residential programs. We know that in the healthcare field, patients want to see caregivers who look like them, who understand where they come from, who know their community. So if we can go into those communities and train professionals, we feel that we will be improving not just physical therapy or occupational therapy, but general health outcomes altogether. So that is some of our motivation for what we're doing. We have wonderful colleagues at Noodle who have helped us identify ways in which to become more effective. We have new student orientation experiences that are online. We have an initiative called SHRS Cares, which is about self-care and mental health for graduate students and individuals who are struggling when they're in our programs. We have a large number of clinical placements required for our doctorate in physical therapy and for our PA studies program. And Noodle has been right there beside us in identifying those slots for our students that have stretched us beyond the Pittsburgh region. I will pass it along to my colleague from the Virginia Commonwealth University to talk about their successes.
Sorry, Stavara, I think you're on mute.
That's right. My button didn't clear. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Stavara Haley Clark. I am the Interim Associate Dean for Academic and Student Affairs, the Director of Online Education, and an Associate Professor at the Virginia Commonwealth University School of Social Work. So while we're here in this webinar, you all are going to be a part of our Ramily, so I can talk with you a little bit about our Master of Social Work program. We started partnering with Noodle like Pitt in 2019. However, we didn't start our program from nothing. We started as a distance education program. And so in our partnership with Noodle, we transformed a distance ed program that was only available to students who were here in Virginia, and they came to our campus in Richmond twice a month for each semester to do their learning. And so we partnered with Noodle to transform the wonderful program that we had, but provide additional opportunities for folks in other parts of Virginia, but then also outside of Virginia. As we started out, we had to grow our enrollment team. We had to grow our advising and student success team. as you can see, we've done a lot of placements with the help of our Noodle partners. And I know here today, we're really going to be talking about partnerships, but I have to give a shout out to our student affairs teams with our student support coaches and our advisors, because they are the lifeline of our recruitment and our retention here for our students, and holding some of those events that they're doing, our lunch and learns, our webinar series, our panels, which are really helping to build community and connection with students. As Lori mentioned at Pitt, our students that are online here at VCU are typically more diverse than our on-campus students. They're more diverse in their age and in their ethnic and racial backgrounds, also in their diversity of thought. And so it's very interesting to see our online population get to know each other, especially as we've expanded across the country. And I think right now we're having students from around 27 states. And so we are constantly looking at how do we improve our marketing? How do we improve the conversations that our enrollment advisors are having with students? Because a lot of times students are seeing our materials and they're looking at online education. And yes, it's done at their own pace on their own time, but we do have a placement aspect. And so for our students, they have to have 2 different internships. That's what we call them, in their generalist year and then in their year of specialization. And so our partnership with Noodle has really helped us to really hone in and build those connections with students to see, one, what interested you to get your MSW or your Master of Social Work? What is the content you're desiring to learn, and where and what population are you trying to work with to get more experiences as a practitioner? And so really having an opportunity to have more a hands-on approach and speaking with our students and their expectations about guiding their learning has really been beneficial, and for us to build additional placements for students. So I will pass it back over to you, Alistair, to get us started.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you both to Savara and to Laurie for sharing their insights. I think when we talk about education deserts, obviously it's become more topical with the advent of digital transformation within universities, where higher education now has the opportunity and the modes to deliver education in all these different ways. But if you fundamentally can't reach students, then you have a problem, regardless of whether you're trying to offer something in person or online or as a mix of both. So to start us off, I'd like to take a step back from the case studies and ask the panel how we can identify education deserts. I mean, I know Stavara and Laurie, you both talk about serving students better in order to avoid them. But Kathy, perhaps we could come to you. So if you could tell us maybe how you would define it at Noodle, what the criteria are, and how you can start to mitigate them.
I mean, from our perspective, it really is, if it's an area, there isn't a higher or an institution that provides opportunities for higher education. We're going to use time, an hour away from the student, right? So if a student's in an area and within an hour away, there isn't a higher institution where they can get a degree to support their career and what they want to do, their education, that is really kind of from our perspective of let's give those folks an opportunity.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry, one thing I forgot to mention is that we will have time at the end of the scheduled hour to put questions to the panelists. So if you have any questions for any of the panelists today, if you can please just drop them in the Zoom chat or the Q&A, and we'll get through as many as we can towards the end. Just to take us back to that initial point, Julie, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about how student support and engagement has changed. You know, obviously you give people more tools, you give people more options, but it doesn't necessarily get any easier to manage the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, as you alluded to, you can give more resources, you can give that access. But something we talk about a lot at Noodle is the idea of agility. The idea that how can we make something that works in one space work in other spaces? So the resources that work for on-ground students, maybe the processes for financial aid, are those equipped to work for online students as well? And that's something that we lean into those discussions. We lean into the discussions about what resources do you have available to students. We need to understand those students that we're now working with in new pockets to understand their needs, their circumstances, their experiences. And so that all feeds into how we ensure we're providing the right support, not just support.
Great, thank you. Mr. I thought it was interesting that you noted the difference between the student cohorts that exist online or digital first perhaps, and the other students that you have. I mean, how cognizant are students of education deserts, if you like, being not having an in-person offering now? Is there some who maybe don't prioritize it, or it just doesn't factor into their choices? I mean, how do you, I guess what I'm asking is, how do you balance the different expectations that modern students have when they look at digital and in-person delivery?
Well, I think I want to say what Julie said, we'd have to be agile, right? So a lot of our students who are coming to our on-campus program are maybe 1 to 2 years out from completing their undergraduate degree. So they have varying responsibilities. Typically, our students who are coming into our online program, they're older, they may be career switchers, they're caregiving for elderly parents or for young children, they're working. And so they have a lot more life experiences and balances that they're having to work through to get to higher education. So sometimes putting life on a full stop and just coming to campus is not a reality for them. Whereas some folks who may be traditional aged, and they're going through undergraduate and they go right into a graduate degree, they're used to being on campus. They maybe haven't started working full-time or building some of those additional life responsibilities. So they're used to the campus culture. And so for us here, we do that with our graduate program and our undergraduate program, and making sure that students know that this is a place where they can be seen and heard and that they belong. And so for us, that looks like having office hours during the day, during the evening, on weekends, making sure when we're holding events that it's available for any student, that whether they're online or on campus, at times where it benefits students who are not in class online or in class on campus. And so we're taking that consideration into everything we do. How is this going to impact our online students? How does this impact our on-campus students? And also being just honest with students when we're having certain events or certain things where we say, okay, this can only be for online students, but we're going to record it. Or this is only for on-campus students, but we're going to provide these resources. Because what we don't want to do is overpromise students and then they feel like they've been baited and switched, because we don't want that for them and we don't want that to be their experience of us.
Okay, great, thank you. And your other point you made earlier about how the peer-to-peer interactions are changing and they react differently online, is that something that, do they exist very much in sort of two separate ecosystems? People are also coming to campus. I mean, how much are you able to sort of track and monitor and support the kind of conversations and the relationships that students are building around their own maybe group study or things like that?
So in this day and age, we can build the bridge for students, but they're gonna take their own paths. So most of our students have cohort-based group me's or Facebook groups that they're connecting with each other. You know, we have Canvas-based organizations for them to do discussion boards where they can say, hey, I'm in Wisconsin, or hey, I'm in Louisiana. Anyone there want to start a study group? Or, you know, maybe we can meet and greet. We can house that all we want to get the jumping off point for our students. But once we meet with them and we start connecting them, like, hey, did you know so-and-so is at this place and y'all are like 50 minutes away from each other, connect. Once we do that, it takes off. But one of the things we also do is have our student organizations and our student associations that are blended and hybrid between on-campus and online students, so that they can build relationships amongst the different modalities, and making sure that the leadership in those organizations are both from online and on campus, so that the entire student body's voice is being heard in what we're doing and what we're providing for them.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Laurie, how much of these kind of points and approach, how much do they resonate? I saw you nodding along a couple of them. So there must be, I assume there's some common ground between what both institutions are doing.
I think the effort to create community is an important one. Certainly one that we're thinking about all the time with the help of Noodle and the student success coaches. And In fact, I just came from a meeting with them, and the question was, can we get tickets for a Pitt basketball game that's not at home, where we have students, where we might have a Pitt night at LSU or at UNC or somewhere. And I thought that was a great idea. Like, we need to create those opportunities for students to come together and realize that they are not alone in their regions. That happens. They do figure that out as they're in the programs, but it happens even more when they're in their preceptor, in their externships. They figure out who the people are who have connections to Pitt, and they rely on those people. I think the other thing is we make a concerted effort also to include students in every possible way. Of course, our university, most universities are designed for residential students. There are a lot of little ways in which obstacles have been created for online learners. And what we've been doing over the last 5 years is identifying what those obstacles are and how we can overcome them for our students.
Okay, great. Thank you. I mean, it's interesting you talk about that, and also Stavara mentioned that you can build a lot or a little, and it doesn't necessarily lead to widespread adoption from your student base. Another thing I wanted to ask you about, though, is just providing resources and training for staff is another integral part of this, because if that's not done correctly, then you're not going to be able to build the infrastructure you need. You're not going to have the communications that you need. So, but what steps have you taken towards that? Because you're going to be dealing with all different levels of digital literacy and buy-in from across your faculty base.
I have to give credit where it's due here. My dean, Tony DeLito, and the former vice dean of the school, Debbie Miller, spent 2 years laying the groundwork for online learners in our school. And they did a fantastic job of orienting and educating people about what was going to be different about these students. One, we weren't going to see them very often, if at all. Two, they might be working adults or have those other life circumstances that they had to deal with that many undergraduates and new graduate students don't have. And three, that we needed to be, all of us needed to be aware of just what I was talking about, the obstacles that are inherent in a residential university that prohibit a student from successfully getting financial aid or something as simple as an ID card. I mean, there have been lots of those little things and big things that we've tried to identify and overcome at Pitt.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Judy, Kathy, I was interested to get your thought from a supplier side point of view about what resources that you see that tend to be the most effective when people are trying to equip their staff with the tools they need to accomplish these goals.
Yeah. Well, I'll chime in. I think that this was already alluded to, but the art of resetting expectations, that is a core principle. When we make a change like this, we need to reset those expectations, and we need to make sure that there's some infrastructure to support these changes. So technology being the big one. We need easily accessible technology so faculty and students can communicate in this new way. So faculty can maybe communicate with the learning team that they might be working with to prepare their courses. So we need to make sure that communication is just wide open. We need to crack that wide open, set the expectation that it's going to look different. It's going to sound a little bit different. It might be in a slightly different format. And that's a big part of it. Kathy, I know you do a good amount of training also, so I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, I'll speak from kind of a field placement or clinical experience perspective of typically a residential or an existing program have partnerships or networks where students are engaging in a clinical or field placement experience. But when you expand that and you open it up in education deserts or across countries in a different state or area, that network has to get bigger. We have to build upon that network. And so, you know, with the partnership of, as Lori was sharing with the dean and the assistant dean and with Lori, the kind of framing of we're creating new networks, new partnership, but that also involves us engaging in a different way, right? And the experience for the students should be no different, but it may look different. The process may look different, and being prepared for that of what are the standards and expectations we should have for the learning experience, but it may look different when student X is in this education desert, right? And how do we accommodate that student scenario, but still give them the right education and the experience. And so it's a lot about framing and understanding what that would look like and the benefits that the faculty would have when we kind of open this up, the variety of experience, the diversity that Lori and Stavari both talked about, and how that would engagement in the classroom would look different, and how robust and rich those discussions could be because of the expansion and opening it up. So it's a lot of, I think from our perspective, for Julie and I, is this is what we've done and this is what it would look like. And it really excites the faculty to, okay, then how do I engage? What, you know, how do I think about this differently? It's exciting to be part of.
Laurie mentioned that it took, you know, a good couple of years to lay the foundations for the digital transformation at her institution. When you talk about expanding and diversifying partnerships, the case studies and the Noodle partners who do it effectively, are they approaching it as a multi-year project? Are they prioritizing certain areas to diversify and expand their partnerships into first? Is it?
I think a lot of times it does happen step by step. This is not, you know, put out one advertisement and all of a sudden students around the world know, you know, about this program. There has to be pretty consistent efforts to make sure that you're attracting the right students, the students who will benefit from this program, the students who are interested in this specific program. So making sure there's targeted initiatives is huge when looking to expand in this way. Also, just thinking about, you know, putting the emphasis on connection as a powerful tool for advancement. The more that we encourage connection, whether it's with a new university or a colleague at another university or placement professionals, either way, we know that that leads to a stronger network and a stronger quality graduate. So really making sure that we put connection at the center, that helps us prioritize expansion.
Okay, great. Thank you. Laurie, what do you think the trick is for getting those placements right and meeting expectations and also helping people get the best outcomes?
I think communication is key. So the communication between Kathy and her team and the teams in the different departments in our school are critical. First of all, it's an accreditation issue. There has to be an understanding of what the accrediting body for our professional degrees requires as far as placements go. And the final approval of all placement sites lies with the faculty. Noodle can go out and recruit sites, but only Pitt can decide is a site that we consider to be of quality, equal quality to that with which we have our residential students. And I think that's an important part of all of this, is that the message that we send is we have taken a risk by putting some of our very highly ranked programs online, but what we say about them is they are of the same rigor and quality as our residential programs, which are known nationally, but have never been available nationally. So that's getting that word out into those education deserts is what makes this so exciting and successful in our case. And I'm sure this is true for Virginia Commonwealth as well. Once you've worked with a team like the support team that we have at Noodle, I feel I am convinced, although I have no data to support this, that our recruiting of, for example, of preceptors for our physician assistant studies program required, I can't remember the number, but over 1,000 placement sites. That was a lot of people talking on the phone about Pitt's new physician assistant studies program. Word got out. This year we had 3,000 applicants for that program. I mean, that's madness. But it allows us then to look at that full body of student applications and really choose a rich and diverse group of students who are where we want them to be and where they want to stay in order to serve their communities.
Great, thanks. I mean, I was going to ask if there was a particular program that overperformed or over-delivered, and you gave a great example of that. You certainly don't have to name names or name courses, but when you have perhaps sort of the opposite effect, where something you're not able to build the infrastructure you want or get the level of engagement that you want, is it, do you go back to basics then? Is it about the outreach? Is it about looking how you're talking to people, or how do you solve that problem?
I think the example that I would use is one of our smaller programs. It's very niche, and the degree is not very well known, and it's not a terminal degree. But we've been able to really powerfully use graduate experiences from that program as a force for marketing the program, to show how leadership and program change can really impact forcefully a specific area. And so we rely a lot on those stories of our graduates from that small program to continue to bring new students in. It's not so much that the faculty aren't engaged, or in fact, they're very dedicated to those few students that they have. It's just that we need a bigger group of student population that we can then advance the program.
Excellent, thank you. Stavara, you spoke a little bit about sort of the power of sort of students within your own ecosystem reaching out to people and providing support, providing engagement. Laurie's, I guess, talking about something similar in a way, in that once you hear a testimony, you're more likely to trust a peer-led voice in terms of convincing you of a program's credentials and the results that it can bring. Are you in a similar situation at your institution, where you have some programs that are able to perform and some placements that are able to perform really, really strongly because of that, and others where you perhaps have to look for testimonies or other things that can help show people that they're out there and drive engagement?
Absolutely. I think we have a lot of placements where students hear from folks and they're like, oh wait, I want that placement. And so sometimes we have a lot of placements where we have too many students and not enough slots there. But a good benefit, and I can speak, while our program is growing nationally, we started out as a Virginia-based and then Mid-Atlantic-based program. And so a lot of the agencies that we partner with for our placements have some of our alums there. And so not only are the students connecting with their peers and hearing testimonies of alums that are not at their placements, but they're actually getting taught by alums in our classroom, and then also alums at their field placements. And so it's more of a wraparound cohort for them, where they can have conversations with their instructors, because some of our instructors here are alumni of our program. I mean, I'm the interim associate dean and a director here, and I got my master's and bachelor's degree from our School of Social Work. And so we really are having students connect with each other at their placements. We'll do the testimonials on our website. We'll put them out on social, but then also we'll have panels with students where we'll bring in current students and say, okay, you know what? We have some prospective students, or we have some students who are about to enter their field placement. What advice would you give them? Knowing what you know now, how would you share that information with them? And sometimes that's the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Sometimes students have to hear, like, I had to, for a semester, drop down to part-time work because I was expected to intern for 21 hours. And for, my mental wellness and for the sake of my family and the prioritization of school, that was the decision that I had to make. And so I think even though we may share that information with students, even though we've gone through the program, we've got the degree that they're trying to get, but when they hear that from their peer, it resonates a little differently than they hear it from an administrator or from a faculty member. And they're like, yeah, but you have to say that. But when they hear their peers that are going through it or have recently been through it, it sticks and they receive it. And then they really begin to have those conversations with self to figure out, well, what do I need to do to fit this in? I chose to come to school. I chose a program that requires a clinical placement, and I need this to move forward in my career. How do I make this work? And I also think that this is where our partnership with Noodle has really helped us, because prior to, we didn't have student support coaches. Our student success advisors did it all. They met with students about, their writing concerns. They met with students about, time management and how to fit their internship. And then they met with them about the curriculum requirements. And I think now having our student support coaches and our field placement coordinators, our students have multiple people they can go to for each part of the academic journey. So if they have questions about what kind of career can I get with this? How do I fit this in? They can go to their support coach. They have questions about the curriculum or an assignment after they've, reached out to their instructor, they can go to their advisor. When it's time for them to be preparing to get into their field placement, they can go to their placement advisor and say, you know what? I live in Galax, Virginia. Can you tell me what agencies are within, 30 miles from me that has a qualified field instructor that can provide this experience for me? And their placement advisors are able to have those conversations. And so at the same time, we have staff who do that. They're also reaching out to their peers to ask those same questions. And so I think that has been helpful for us to really show students how we are a connected community for them to be able to go through their journey.
Absolutely. And do you think that having that kind of multi-stage and all those different community members who can be used as a resource, is that helping retention? Have you seen any evidence to suggest that, or attainment? I mean, is it almost kind of self-evident when people stay in the program that you need all those people in order to really help articulate what the course is and what's expected?
So I think it has helped retention. And I will also say, though, we've had to create, one-page flyers for students, because sometimes when you have that many resources, students are like, wait. I just need one person to tell me where I need to go when I have a concern. And so it has helped retention, but for some students, it has been overwhelming. And we've had to bring them in and say, okay, you know what? Let's talk about where you are and what you need, and let's write down the resources that you should be accessing and tailor this specific to you. Because while other students may be able to manage knowing, I go to Julie for this, I go to Lori for that, I go to Kathy for this, when they're in a crisis or when they're trying to manage so much in addition to life and school, sometimes just having that one person to go to that they've really connected with is what they need. And for our students here, even though their enrollment advisor may be the first touch point they have with our university, they're still going back to their enrollment advisor, even though they have a student support coach, they have an academic advisor, they have a placement advisor. And so we've done a lot of cross training to be able to answer some of those basic questions, no matter who you go to, but then really referring out to students like, I'm not a good example because I can answer all the questions. But when students are going to their enrollment advisor and they have a question about field placement, that enrollment advisor can talk to them about the hours. They can talk to them about what semesters they're going to take field placement. But what they can't talk to them about is, well, what agency is available in Galax, Virginia? That enrollment advisor is going to have to refer them to the placement advisor. And so I think being able to just have that one person that will connect them to another live person definitely has helped retention, and also, calm some of the anxieties that students may have about doing an online program and graduate education overall. Great,
thank you. I imagine you have to be careful telling which students you can answer all their questions for them. It could be come back
but sometimes the answer is I don't know. Okay. But I can tell you who does know.
Well, yeah, at least you're honest. Kathy, Julie, how much of what Laurie and Stavara are describing is a national trend or an international trend? As to come back to what we talked about, you give students more options, but they're still going to need a trusted source, and they're still going to need a path through all of this.
Absolutely. That resonates for many of us who work with online students. When you can't walk into the financial aid office, when you can't head into that office and meet that person that you've spoken with on the phone, because maybe you're 2,000 miles away, it is so important to have that trusted point of contact. So our student support coaches often act as that for students. They're sort of their right hand, their first point of contact to help get them to the right person. As Stavara said, we might not know every answer, but if we don't, we know exactly who you need to go to. And so we use our resources to help the student feel the cohesiveness that they would feel if they were on campus. So absolutely, that resonates.
And how much are people aware now of these different types of communities being formed and how important they are? Because I imagine it's like I say, there is a danger that you get siloed online, but if you show people a path through it, you showing it's really about the people as much as the technology that they have at their disposal. Yeah, great. The other thing we wanted to talk about was perhaps continuing the trajectory of students' journeys and how that extends increasingly into lifelong learning and professional development. And for placements such as this, where you're talking about putting students out into the world and giving them the internships and the hands-on experience that they need. Kathy, perhaps you could tell us perhaps how you see lifelong learning changing and how that's affecting your work at Noodle.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And I think both for our partnership with Pitt and VCU is we've tapped into the alumni network probably more than we would have if we didn't have these programs that we need to outreach wider, right? So to engage the alumni and allow them to contribute or give back to their profession, to their alma mater, has been really interesting. And that just expands the alumni network, and it allows alumni who are not in the area of the university to now engage back with their university and their programs. So that I take it as like a lifelong learning for the alumni, not only of engagement and sharing their expertise, but also learning from the student of like, oh, now you're learning this. Now this has changed in the curriculum. Now you have these professors, and they also have access to the university to join webinars or to have access to the newest research. So it's kind of a full circle experience from the placement perspective. And then also when the students are in these communities that are education deserts or not in the area, they're able to give back to the community, and then it becomes a full circle again. As new students come up, they engage in that way. So from the placement perspective, that's what I see as lifelong learning, just the ongoing connection and expansion of that network and giving back as professionals, right?
Okay, great.
Alistair,
Laurie, please.
We've formalized that a little bit at Pitt, where we have a continuing education arm in the Office of Online Learning that is kind of picking up on what those trends are from hearing from students and preceptors, and we're offering preceptors free continuing ed that has been developed with them in mind. So we're trying to, we don't pay our preceptors to take our students, but we're trying to, in kind, return the favor, you know, and also to have them have a long-lasting relationship with Pitt beyond their graduate degree, and to encourage that lifelong learning that needs to happen in order to keep your certification and be a professional in all of these fields, because it is required of most of the fields in my school.
I was going to say, how much of it is a necessity when you start talking about certain careers?
It's required, but what we've tried to do is tailor what we offer as continuing ed so that it's relevant, it's affordable, it's practical. Not everything that's out there for continuing ed for speech language pathology or occupational therapy covers those things. You can get your credit hours that are your graduate or your continuing education credit hours that are required, but people want to come back to Pitt because they know the experience and the quality of the offering is going to be of high caliber, and it's going to be by professors that they're familiar with or that they've heard of, and that really helps us in a lot of ways.
It's I know it's difficult to predict the future in this count in particular, but do you think that the nature of CPT might become broader and more diverse as just the technology has an impact on so many different jobs?
Yes, in brief. I think that's where a lot of expansion is going to happen in higher ed.
Okay, thank you. Stavara, have you had those conversations yet about what continuing education looks like, how it might diversify already? And I suppose it's multifaceted, really. It's reaching the right people, having the right people come back to you because they trust your institution as a source and they know they get a good experience and they're going to get a good education. And then also maybe as best you can, trying to anticipate what's next with what's the next technological advancement that everyone's going to worry about or embrace, or both.
Yeah, so, when the pandemic hit, a lot of our services had to swap over to telehealth, right? So we've started providing students with webinars and trainings on what that looks like, because a lot of their placements were expecting them to provide services online and via technology to clients. I will say with continuing education, we're actually right before I started this webinar, we're putting on a continuing education series about serious mental illness next January, starting in January. It'll be January through April. And so we're constantly looking to hear from our students and our alumni, our current field instructors and supervisors saying, okay, what does the community need? What could we be doing more of? And so that's how we're going to be working on serious mental illness. We're looking at the global landscape and social work practice. We're looking at, racial justice and liberatory practice. Like, this is what the community is asking of us. And as the largest school of social work, the highest ranked school of social work in Virginia, people are looking to us to be leaders. And so while sometimes it feels like we're being reactive, we are being proactive in reaching out to them and saying, what are you needing? What can we be doing more of? Because we know that we are educating the most social workers in Virginia, and we want to make sure that not only are we graduating them with the information that they need, but that they're always going to return home, right? They're going to return home to us and come to us for that additional training that they need. And so that was something that our school paused on for about 7 or 8 years. And because our university was centralizing continuing education. But now that we're really getting back into the fold and say, okay, you know what? We've heard our community. We heard what you need. We see where the curriculums can take you. And now let's take it even further and come back to us so we can continue to provide you with certificates, digital badges, micro badges, and continuing education credits that are accredited. And so that is something we are definitely excited to get back into, because it's something our students have been asking us for, and so have our community members.
Great, thank you very much. And we've got about 10 minutes left. So we've had one question from the floor. If anybody else would like to ask them, then now's the time. Just to start us off, the first question we've had is, with a new population of students rising from COVID, how have you adapted to meet students where they are while still providing them with a premier experience? Laurie, so I think you've given sort of examples related to this throughout the hour. This was asked a while ago, so it's kind of preempted what we've talked about today. But how much of that idea of meeting students where they are is still at the forefront of the new ideas that you have? Stavara, go ahead.
Yeah, it's at the forefront of everything we do. And so, you know, even I know we've talked about placement here, but we have an undergraduate program and a graduate program. The majority of students that are coming into our undergraduate program right now did high school during COVID, right? So they had to be online. They missed some pieces that previous cohorts were getting. So we've had to provide a writing advisor to teach them how to write an APA, how to critically apply what we're asking them to do with what they're going, you know, what they're learning with what they're going to do. We've had to really start providing workshops and trainings to say, okay, you know what? We notice there's a gap here, and we see the passion that you have for this profession, and we're going to help you get to where you need to be. And so it's at the forefront of everything we do, because it's not just our undergraduate students who completed high school during COVID. It's folks who may have completed their undergraduate degree during COVID, or they're coming from a community college that had a different idea of what online education looked like, right? Some people think that I threw some slides up online and you reviewed them and you took a test and that was online education. And we're like, well, that may have been your experience previously, but that's not who we are. That's not what we do. And so really having to reteach students what appropriate and good online education is, which means for some students, we've had to help them reset their expectations. We're not an online program where students are online every week in every class, because we feel that if you were able to do that, you should really come to our on-campus program. We're really built for working professionals. And so with that, we're having to teach students, let's talk about your time management again. You know, for every 3-credit course that's accredited, you have to dedicate 135 hours for this semester. Where are you fitting those 135 hours into your schedule and really laying it out for them? So COVID has really started the conversation with us to say, hey, maybe you missed some things, you missed some skills here. How do we take a step back and assess where you are so that we can figure out what services we should be providing to you specifically?
Great, thank you. Laurie, how much of those interventions and conversations are necessary when you meet your students where they are?
I think the way I describe this is that frequently our students feel like they're buying a box that they don't know what is inside. And so it's important for us to open the box, right? And show them what's inside the box. Show them how this is an intentionally built online or hybrid graduate education program. There are supports that go along with being involved in this program that are available to you. And this is what the courses look like. And these are who your faculty members are. Be as transparent as possible about what's inside the box. And that gets them excited and realizing that this is not a self-paced, correspondence course. This is a course where I'm going to have peers who are in a cohort with me, and we're going to move through this curriculum together. And when we're done, we're going to have this great degree from Pitt. So that's when I talk about outside the box, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about opening the box up and letting students see what they're buying before they buy it.
Okay, great. Thank you. We've had a couple of questions from Tina Peterson. The first one is, what is your cap on class enrollment per online class, and is it different for CEUs?
Yeah, so for us, we cap our online classes between 15 to 20 students. Anything over 20 to 25, we provide a teaching assistant. At 25, we open another section, and then we balance them out to see, do we need any additional TAs or instructors? And then for CEUs, we really can have it be as large as we want it to be. We're going back into more virtual CEUs. Our first foray into it, we're looking to have no more than 100 folks in this initial cohort, just so we can get through it and work out all the kinks before we open it up to a wider, larger amount of folks.
Great. Laurie?
Our two larger programs both have cohorts of 100 students, one admission cycle a year, and those students rotate through the entire curriculum depending on whether it's 7 terms or 6. And then for CE, because enrollments are rolling, there's no cap on the number of students in our continuing education offerings at this point.
Okay, great, thank you. Question asked, are most of your online classes asynchronous, or do you also offer them as synchronous? And do you have the faculty providing office hours of live and synchronous interaction?
Yeah, so our online classes, we're doing more of a 70-30 model. So 70% of the information is provided asynchronously, and then 30% is synchronous. So we publish our course dates and times a year in advance. So like Lori said, they can try it before they buy it. They know exactly what date they're expected to be in class and at what time and for which course that they're registered for. And then we do ask that our faculty provide at least 1 hour of office hours each week that are provided to students. And typically our faculty will put the vote out to their students every semester to say, okay, you all tell me what time works best for you all, and that'll be the time. So for me, I'm not teaching this semester, but in previous semesters, my students always chose Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. And so every Thursday at 9 p.m., I'd be online. Sometimes I'm grading because no one shows up, but they know that if they need me, even if they come at 9:30, I was going to be there.
Great. Laurie, what's that breakdown at your institution?
It depends on the program. We have some programs that are online didactic with 1 hour 1 or 2 hour synchronous sessions per week or every other week. It just depends on what the faculty member's preference is. And then our hybrid program for the doctorate in physical therapy is the didactic part of that program is online. They do have synchronous meetings. And then we have immersive experiences where all of the students come to Pitt in order to demonstrate skills and knowledge that they have to have in order to pass the board's certification for that program, in addition to their preceptor extern experiences.
Okay, great, thanks.
We do have the office hours. Yes.
Oh, you do have office hours. Great, thank you. I think we've got time for one more question. Hopefully it'll help you both end on a high. So what do you consider your greatest high impact practice to be, respectively?
I'm going to chime in here and just speak to something that we implement with all of our university partners. And this is a partnership to create a robust onboarding experience for students. We want the students to feel grounded in their new program, feel connected to the different sources of information that we discuss. So making sure that there's a robust and attentive onboarding experience is huge to ensuring student satisfaction and student retention, successful student getting to graduation.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I'm mindful that we're almost at time, so I'd just like to wrap things up there. I'm sorry we haven't had a chance to answer all of the questions, but there will be post-event content sent to everybody who's attended the webinar today, where you will have more opportunities to contact Noodle or anyone else or Times Higher if you would like to know more information about the event or how you can keep this conversation going. In the meantime, I would like to thank Stavara and Laurie and Julie and Kathy for taking the time to share their expertise with us. I hope you've all enjoyed the discussion as much as I have, and that we will see you all next time. Thank you.